Another widely heard criticism is that the organization is too insular, doesn't listen to, doesn't respond to criticism. You're on cable talk shows, but there isn't much in the grassroots to respond to the criticisms I've laid out. What do you think about that? And are there measures that you're open to, for example, nationwide town halls annually to listen to suggestions and criticism?
Mm-hmm. I guess, are you saying that that there is no forum for people to express their criticism, or that people express criticism and we're not hearing it?
There's no forum, both. There's no forum, and that a lot of criticism is expressed but not responded to. There's just this white building that doesn't talk to, the grassroots.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what I have sort of said about where we are at this stage in the movement is we are a long way through this movement, and we're at a point in this movement where nobody owns the agenda, and nobody owns the path forward, and everyone is coming in and doing the work. If we were having this conversation 10 or 15 years ago, all of this stuff about how are we going to move, don't ask, don't tell, and how are we going to move it, it's all in the abstract. So what a small number of people have to say about it, everybody else sort of hears and does or doesn't agree with, but we're now at a point where lots of people are coming in, and you saw that with the National Equality March. A whole different set of people came together. Some like Cleve, who are absolute pioneers in the movement, and other people for whom it was the first major thing they'd done. But everybody has a right to come in, and everybody has a right to be involved, and nobody, not me or anybody else, or HRC or Ray Carey from the task force, owns the agenda and owns the road forward. Having said that, when you come in and you get about the business of doing the work, I still think that just as people have a right to demand certain things of me, that I and others in the movement have a right to demand the same things of anybody who comes into the movement and decides that they have a different idea or a different road forward. So, for instance, whether it's the people who wrote the Dallas Principles or the people who organized the march, if the first thing that I think they sort of have to ask themselves is, who's their audience? Because their audience isn't me, and if it is, then that was not clear. If anybody has a right to come in and say, I think there should be a different way forward, and I think that we should, as was the case with the Dallas Principles, we should implement, we should call for an omnibus civil rights bill. Mm-hmm. Well, anybody has a right to put forward any alternative legislative agenda, but the audience for that idea is Congress. And so I only say all that because sometimes it's hard to sort of filter all of it and to kind of find where's the kind of meaningful dialogue that's really meant for HRC or directed at HRC. Because if you say, I think there should be a new piece of legislation, and I think this is what it should be, and you think that I'm your audience, then that's and I say, actually, what you should do, just like anybody who wants to come into the movement, is go to the Hill, or go with us to the Hill, when we have lobby day, and sort of, just as we would do, test that idea, engage Congress, see where we are with that, see what the resistance is, see if there's a legitimate reason why or why not. If you're willing to do that, what you'll see is that, the audience is Congress, not me. So I think that we hear a lot from the community. I think we hear a lot from people about what we should and shouldn't be doing. I think one of the challenges for us is that, the community is so diverse. So if we brought 10 people in here right now from the community, and said, how are things going on a scale of 1 to 10, I can tell you, you get every answer from, you get every number from 1 to 10.
But you're saying that we hear the criticism. My question is HRC doing enough to hear and respond through, even as so much as staff, blogging on your website, in response to different, posts that Andrew Sullivan does, or hosting annual town halls around the country. There are all kinds of different ways. Is HRC doing enough of that? Are you committed to doing more?
I think, though, I guess what I'm saying is, when you say, what Andrew Sullivan has to say, everybody, this wasn't the point I was trying to make, everybody gets to be a blogger. Everybody gets to be a citizen journalist now. Everybody gets full access to, your own platform, right? I mean, you yourself are in this situation. We get, not just me, but anybody who is a potential reader, gets to sort of then evaluate that criticism and evaluate that stuff and decide what we're going to pay attention to and what we're not. A lot of what Andrew Sullivan puts in what he writes is incorrect. A lot of the assumptions he makes, a lot of the way he sort of strings a bunch of points together, and at a certain point it just becomes a lot of rage and a lot of anger, and we don't pay attention to it, and we don't have to pay attention to it, and that is our right not to pay attention to it. Now, somebody like Pam Spalding, on Pam's House Blend, which I'm sure you read, here's somebody who comes to this, this is my interpretation at least, with a pretty clear point of view, with her own ideas, and with, if you really sort of read what she has to say, as I do all the time, there are certain things that she's really trying to make people aware of about the tension between national and local work, and about the importance of paying attention to, economic disparities within the movement and racial disparity within the movement. And so when Pam Spalding has a criticism of HRC, or a criticism of me, or a criticism of the movement, I pay attention. And, I don't always agree, but I don't think she'd expect that I'd always agree. But a lot of times I do. And a lot of times I read what she has to say, and I say, okay, fair enough. So, just like everybody gets to be in this space and put forward their ideas and do what you're talking about, I get to be, I have the right to read it all and to consume it all, but to decide, at least from my own point of view, who I think has constructive criticism and a valid point of view and who doesn't. And so there are lots of people like Pam who, I bet she criticizes HRC more than she praises us. But that's okay, because the criticism is constructive. And oftentimes the criticism is, I wish they hadn't done this, I wish they would have done this. And I read that part of it and I think, okay, fair enough. That's, it's a good point. So.
And what follows is your right to read and consume is your right to choose to respond or not publicly.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, there is no way to respond on Andrew Sullivan's blog. You can't respond. You're talking about HRC's blog, and I think HRC is probably less of a blog and more of kind of a repository for news, HRC backstory. But you can respond to Pam, and you can respond directly to Pam. You can respond directly to, John Aravosis and Joe, and you can engage people. And we talk to a lot of bloggers, and we talk to a lot of people. We put information out. Mm-hmm. We try to set the record straight if we think there's something that's not quite right or that we disagree with. But we also, when somebody who again has constructive criticism and a point of view about what it is that they're trying to say, and John Aravosis is the same way. We engage. We don't just go and put add the 14th comment or something. We really engage with them, and we're interested in what they have to say. So yeah, everybody gets to do it, but everybody has to realize that the audience gets to consume and filter and pay attention to that which we think is not just criticism, but constructive criticism.